Firstly, thank you for joining us on our webinar today. This month's webinar is with Pierre from Powell Software. Stratos are a Powell Intranet partner, or Powell Software partner, and we've done a number of Powell Intranet implementations. So we thought it would be nice for Pierre to come along today and just demonstrate some of the functionality. But at the same time, what we're wanting to, the main topic we're going to cover actually is around how to create engaging campaigns in your organization. So this is kind of a communication strategy and tools, and we'll demonstrate how to do some of the things that we're going to talk about to solve some of the common problems that comms managers have. We are recording this session, and if you do have any questions, if you pop those into the chat, then we'll pick those up as we're going through, and we will have time at the end for a Q&A as well. So, Pierre, do you want to pop us on to the next slide? And we'll just do a quick intro. So I'll just introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. So I'm Steve Knutson. I am one of the directors at Stratos. I'm a Microsoft MVP in the SharePoint space. And I also one of the founders of the company. And Pierre, can I get you to do a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Steve. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Pierre. I'm based in Sydney, and I look after the Asia Pacific region for Powell Software.
Great, thank you, Pierre. So what we're going to do today, so our agenda was to do a quick introduction around the topic of communications and campaigns. We'll look at some of the limitations of SharePoint, and then we'll be straight into a demo. So the demo is going to be the main focus of the day. So if you wait 2 or 3 minutes, we'll be straight into some demos. So Pierre, could you next slide, please? So one of the things that makes Powell Intranet unique is that it's an add-on to SharePoint that sits across the top, but it has a real focus on creating a really engaging environment for end users in terms of like how the appearance of the intranet. But it also has a whole lot of tools in here for making it really powerful for content creators. So it's one thing to actually just create an intranet. The thing that's important about keeping it alive is maintaining it, is the maintenance over time. And that's really where the strength of Powell comes in, because it's been built around the content creation lifecycle. And also personalization and targeting of content to people in the organization based on groups and locations and so on. And it has lots of advanced capabilities that take the base technology that SharePoint's built and extends it a lot. And it sits sort of as the core gateway, I guess, or the front door to your digital workplace. And so making that an engaging place for people with useful information resources is kind of the key. One of the key reasons why you would have an intranet. And what Powell does is they make that process of creation and maintenance of the environment super easy and very, it's easy to make it nice looking too as well. And you'll see in Pierre's demo lots of the functionality that does that. And it's totally integrated into your Microsoft 365 environment, so all of your content is staying inside SharePoint and Microsoft 365. Pierre, if you jump to the next slide, please. So one of the big problems that Powell addresses is some of the limitations that SharePoint has out of the box. And really the key things that we're going to show today is the ability to do the cohesive campaign. So that's one thread of the functionality that's provided. And the other thing that they do really, really well is they create beautiful looking template solutions. So when you create your site, it doesn't necessarily look like SharePoint. It's a much more engaging interface. They solve a lot of those small problems that, when you add them up, become quite a big effort for implementation. So they accelerate implementation and make it easy for you to build that kind of cohesive intranet environment. And if we just jump to the next slide, Pierre. And today what we're going to address, though, is communication teams in particular. So the issue that communication teams have throughout the life cycle of like publishing content is sort of summed up in these 4 pieces. The first piece is that, like, how do we create consistent, engaging content that's relevant to people and targeted to the right groups? So firstly authoring, the second one targeting it to where people are, so that they don't have, so that they can, they will get the eyeballs on the message. And then the third part of it is then having analytics to be able to go back and answer simple questions like who saw that post, not the numbers of people, but also who was it that saw that post. Perhaps needing the ability to make sure that people see it by having a required viewing of that content. If you're pushing out an important notice, it's quite easy for people to ignore. If you really want to get them engaged with that, sometimes you want that message to be a must-read scenario, so we'll demonstrate some of that functionality. And then with those analytics and understanding who's reading the content and understanding what's engaging and what isn't, so having the visibility of that through analytics, then implementing a continuous improvement on communications. And I'll just touch on one really simple scenario that I've seen this play out, which touches all four pieces. So organization created an intranet, they published a news post, and they then called us in to say, we can't, people aren't engaging with it. We can see that nobody's reading the news. So we went and looked at the analytics, and the first thing we saw was that lots of people were visiting the homepage of their intranet. Very few people were engaging with the news posts. And that's because SharePoint analytics just show you, they don't show you the detail down to the page level enough to be able to really understand what's going on. The next thing we did was we looked at the content itself, and it was very poor. A couple of sentences, poorly written, rushed. It was a last-minute afterthought rather than an effort that was made by somebody to create a really engaging message. And then when we went and looked at their news history, they continued to do the same thing week after week after week without improving it. So putting in analytics, understanding how to write a good article, and then improving the way you do things are all required in order to make better engagement with your intranet over time. So that's probably enough from me. I'll hand over to Pierre, who's going to jump into some demos and take us on a journey through the life cycle of content, touching on all these 4 points.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks again, everyone, for joining today's session. I'm super excited to be presenting alongside Steve. We've worked on quite a few projects in New Zealand when it comes to SharePoint Intranet. And so today we'll be showing you how Powell can help you take your SharePoint experience to the next level, especially when it comes to internal communications. There are quite a few areas we address as part of the solution, but we're really going to focus on internal communications today, with a few elements of obviously engagement as part of the demo today. So what we're about to see today is really just one of our demo environments. So everything I'm going to be showing you is going to be powered by Powell Intranet, which works fully on top of SharePoint. So that's a really important concept to keep in mind. You can see here the SharePoint banner on top with the SharePoint bar on the left-hand side. So it really resides within the organization's SharePoint environment, with all the data staying within that same environment. And it is, of course, entirely customizable to your needs. I've never seen two customers intranet looking exactly the same. The idea is really to tailor the platform based on your specific requirements. And that's exactly why we work with partners like Stratos. We're really here to understand your requirements, translate it into Powell functionalities, and really tailor it based on your requirements. So in the short session today, we're going to show you how we can use Powell Intranet to run communication campaigns, create and publish content easily, send newsletters, but also measure engagement, all on SharePoint. First of all, to give you a bit of a background, I just wanted to set some context here so you understand better why we do things and how we do it. Powell Intranet was built after years of creating custom intranets on SharePoint. We realized we were constantly rebuilding the same things over and over across industries and company sizes. Today, we're working with a wide range of customers across really all industries, but also in terms of size, it really ranges from 20 users all the way up to 200,000 users. And so essentially, we realized we were always relying on custom development, and with a lot of maintenance that would come with that. And still today, to this date, it's still a big pain point about SharePoint, but we also were realizing we were always building the same things again. Again, at the end of the day, any organization needs a nice homepage, need a policy hub, a company directory, an org chart, and so on and so forth. So we started wondering why we were always building things from scratch when we're always building more or less the same things. And that's when we decided to create Powell Intranet to really help organizations fast track the development, deployment, and eventually maintenance of their SharePoint environment, with a core concept behind Powell and being templates. The idea is really that we break SharePoint down into templates for everything within SharePoint. So when you think about templates in Powell, don't think about it just for sites. Think about templates for all the different SharePoint elements. So sites, of course, but also pages, content, navigations, so a header or footer, themes, web parts, list, all the different SharePoint elements become templates. Why bringing templates for all the different elements? To bring scalability to SharePoint. For example, a very classic example that we see very often is a mega menu that's unified across all the different sites of the intranet. Having a mega menu that's consistent across all the different sites can be painful with SharePoint out of the box, because it may require an IT department to go and manually configure that navigation on different sites and manually update it as well when needed. While with Powell, we will simply build a navigation template, deploy it to 20 different sites, for example, so they all have exactly the same one. And when we want to update that navigation, we just modify the template and it updates things at scale. So again, that concept usually makes a lot of sense to IT departments. It resonates really well with them because it brings scalability to SharePoint. However, we also quickly realized it's as important, if not more, to provide value to business users such as communications, HR, marketing, corporate affairs, depending on the organizations. But overall, business users who need to take care of the intranet day in and day out, but who don't necessarily have the technical understanding of SharePoint. And so often they find SharePoint too technical or clunky. We're here to remove that friction and give them a much simpler, user-friendly interface so they can easily create and manage their content without needing IT all the time. And we simply do that by delegating templates back to business users, so that these business users can easily create their different pieces of content, their sites, their web parts, and so on from templates that are pre-configured, and templatized. Beyond simplification, we also bring new capability, of course. Things like content sharing, targeting, campaign management, newsletter, guided tours, and other engagement tools such as gamifications, things that are either not possible or require heavy custom development in native SharePoint. We will pre-build all these components so you don't have to start from scratch. And so customers often come to us because they've invested heavily in Microsoft 365 and SharePoint, but they're frustrated. SharePoint's too hard for communications team to use, or they end up relying too heavily on IT departments. So we're here to really fix that by making SharePoint usable and useful for everyone without the need for custom development or complex workarounds. So at a high level today, we're going to cover three main things: creating and targeting content to the right audiences, broadcasting messages across channels, and tracking how people engage with what we publish. So today I'm going to be playing the role of Nicole. You can see here, welcome Nicole. So Nicole, I am a communications manager, and I will be in charge of communicating today around the launch of our new product called Contoso. So I will be creating a news article to announce the product launch tomorrow, but I will be also reviewing the communication campaign we built around the product launch and review some of my teammates' content before creating a newsletter. So when I speak to communications manager, one of the biggest frustration I hear is how painful the native SharePoint content creation process can be. It's hard to create rich and engaging content from here, and it makes it even harder to distribute content authoring across the organization. Essentially, things become very technical very quickly here with the native SharePoint creation process. Very often when I meet communication manager, a simple question is, how do you create an event from this drop-down menu here? And very often we're not sure, because all of this content here is SharePoint lingo. And so you need to understand what a page means in SharePoint to be able to create the right piece of SharePoint content for your intranet. And even though you know what piece of SharePoint content you need to create, you still have to go and configure all your different web parts and configure the entire page yourself. So the idea here is really to hide that. And you will see it already feels a lot better when we hide the SharePoint native functionalities. It reinforces the corporate branding, makes it look more user-friendly, more like a normal website for end users. So how we empower communications team, to easily create the content is essentially by, again, delegating them content templates. So here, to create a news article, I simply have to click the plus button, and I will be provided with a gallery of content templates that are ready for me to create. They are all pre-configured. What I'm going to have to focus on here is really the content itself, rather than configuring all my web parts one by one. And here, all these different tiles are really just examples. A partner like Stratos can go in and configure as many content templates as needed for the organizations. And also these content templates can vary based on user profiles and permissions, of course, but also the sites we are on within the intranet. So here today, we're just going to create a simple corporate news using the AI assistant to help us create the content. So here, I'm just going to use the body. I have a ChatGPT-like interface. So just to speed things up, I've just created a little prompt so I don't write the whole thing from scratch. Here we go. So I'm just going to ask the AI to help me write a news article to officially announce the launch of the product. I'm just going to make sure these settings are right here. And here, I'm not going to do it today, but I could use a knowledge base as the content source. So typically, all these knowledge bases are going to be document libraries in SharePoint, and I'm going to have the ability to put in all my documents related to the Contoso product, for example, so that my AI can pick information about the product itself rather than some very generic information. But we'll keep it simple for today, and I'm just going to go ahead and generate the content. So here, AI is going to take a few seconds to create my content, and here we go. So just like that, my news is nearly ready to go. So I've got my title, my description, and we'll see later the content is also created. But here, as you can see, when I go and create content, whether it's with AI or not, I really have to focus on the content itself rather than the technicality of SharePoint. What you'll see also is that everything will be pre-configured and embedded within the form. So when I create content, I only do it through this form. For example, you will have the ability to implement all your metadata directly within this form so that you can later on target the content, but also search for it as a user. That metadata will be directly embedded within the form, and a partner like Stratos can help you configure all that metadata information, for example. So here we'll just ask the body to create an image quickly, and we'll go ahead and set up our different departments. So here it's going to be a global announcement. So we'll just tag all the different departments to make sure everybody is receiving notifications, and we'll tag all the different locations in the intranet. For the topic, we'll make it a corporate news and communication topic. So I've got my image here. I'm just going to add it into the content. And here I've got my actual news content. So here, actually, this news content, I may not be so happy with it. Maybe I want to rewrite it. And so at any point in time, I can always go back and ask the body. First of all, the body is going to give me an evaluation of the content, which is really useful for communicators, making sure that they have some key KPIs around the level of their content, and especially one that we all really like is the language level complexity, which is always very useful to make sure we make things understandable to all the different audiences. And so based on that, I'm going to be able to go in and reiterate. So for example, here, maybe I want to lengthen this article and make sure there is a little bit more information about our product launch. So here we go. I've got a new content now. I'm happy with this one, and I'm just going to replace the content, and I'm good to go. So from here, I can decide to schedule the news if I want to. Here, we'll just publish it right away. And we can see we have other options. For example, I could make it a headline news to make sure it makes the top slider of my homepage. So again, these are just little configurations that are made in the content template by a partner like Stratos. So I'll go ahead and I'll publish my news article. When I publish my news article, next, I'm going to be able to notify my users. So we're going to see this in a second. And as you can see on the left-hand side, you have all the other content templates available here. So really anything I'm going to create on the intranet is going to be simplified that way. We also notice here I'm scoring 50 points. We'll come back to this right after. So here I've created my news article. I can go to the content. We'll leave this for now. What I want to do for now is actually I will associate this content to my communication campaign. So here I will associate this to the Contoso product launch. And I'm going to go ahead and notify the users about this news article. So when I notify the users here, I'm just going to notify everybody, but I could also notify just groups of users, of course. And when I notify users, depending on how it is configured, I could send notifications directly on the intranet. I could send it on the mobile through a push notification. It could also be sent through a Teams notification as well, really depending on how we want to set up these different notifications. So the notification was sent. So now I can leave this, this page here. And here, so I'm just going to refresh the page. So we'll be able to see our news article here. Okay, so I may have to just redo it. Okay, of course, I'm having the demo effect right now. There we go. So my news article is here. And now we're just going to click it and open it just to see what a news article looks like with this template. Because here the idea is every time I'm going to create a corporate news with that corporate news template, I will have the exact same look and feel because it is leveraging a template. So everything will be pre-configured. You also saw I scored some points when I read the news. So when I published the news and when I read the news. This is part of the gamification module that we have as part of the intranet, where you can reward users when they interact with the intranet. So we can reward them with essentially any action they take on the intranet. So as you could see here, I was rewarded as a content author for publishing content, but I was also rewarded as a user for reading content. So it is a really good way to boost usage of the intranet and create good habits for the end users. So here I have my news article, as you can see. It is completely populated with my content. Here, a news template is configured to also display the most recent news on the right-hand side. And directly within this article, I have the ability to interact with it. I can comment it, of course, but I also have the ability to go and share my news articles. It is really important to make sure the intranet is not only a top-to-bottom communication anymore, but really a space where we enable users to contribute, but also share information transversally with their colleagues. So here, for example, let's say I'm a team leader. I see an important piece of news on the intranet. I want to make sure my team is going to read it. I'll go ahead and share this onto a Teams channel, for example, or to somebody one-on-one. I'll do it directly from the intranet, either from to Teams, but I could also do it with Viva Engage or emails as well. And here, as you can see, I can even ask the buddy to write a message to help me share this article. And I can do it everywhere. So we can implement these little share buttons on all sorts of content. Here, news, but it could be on events, documents, etc., etc. And as you can see, I can also, so here I've opened the news article really on top of the homepage. This is something I know users really appreciate about the solution because it makes their experience a lot smoother on SharePoint rather than reloading a whole new page. Here I am actually browsing through my news. And once I'm done, I can just exit this view and I'm still on the homepage. Also from here, this time as an administrator, I will have the ability to go and check who has read my content. So here we have just one reading because it is an environment with actually just 2 users. But here I can see that Nicole has read this content. This was actually a functionality that was requested very heavily by HR departments for their policies and procedures. They wanted to track they wanted to track who had read the new policy articles, the new policy documents, the procedures, and so on and so forth. So this is just for tracking the reading. But I'll come back on some more analytics later on. Now, continuing with the demo, and also, sorry, before I go with the communication campaigns, I also wanted to highlight, of course, here, I'm sure everybody's noticed it, that we have the ability to target the content. Here, I am part of the sales department, so I am targeted with sales department news by default. But as a user, I also have the ability to refine my preferences. So I could also be interested in marketing news, save this, next time I log in, this will be my view. So it is quite important to make sure that users can set up their preferences everywhere, but that also admin can target the right pieces of content everywhere within the intranet for the users. Now, I've created my news article. I've associated it to a campaign. So I'm going to actually go into my campaign and have a look at it to make sure that everything is on track, and also to review John's. So John is one of my team members, and he told me he actually drafted a company event for a feedback session about the product launch. So I'm just going to review his draft and make sure it looks good before we publish it. So here, when I open the campaign, so we created a campaign for the Contoso product launch. If we open the campaign itself, we have the ability to set a start and end date for our communication campaign, and also define who is going to be able to contribute on this campaign. It could be just for myself, it could be open to any contributors or specific groups of users within my communication team. When I look at my campaign here, it's going to really consolidate all the different content I have added to this campaign. We have news, but we also have events, and we can go further. It's not limited to just news and events. Here, for example, we also have documents that have been associated to this campaign. So here, what we are going to do again is review John's company event for the feedback session he created this morning. So I'm just going to come here, and I'm going to edit the content to have a look at what he created. So directly from here, I'm able to see the very similar form we saw earlier. So this time it is an event form with here my event details. So as we can see here, John actually forgot to put a start date and an end date for the event. So I'll just go ahead and schedule the date of the event. So we'll put this feedback session for the 10th of June, starting 9 a.m. And we'll put the end date being 10th of June at 11 a.m. There we go. So now we have the right date. I'll also be able to review the content, of course. So here we're just going to leave it as is. And then I'll be able to go in and maybe schedule that content. So directly here, I'm going to be able to go and say, we want to publish this event on the intranet, maybe next Monday after the product launch at 10 a.m. And I'll go ahead and schedule the publishing. Perfect. So we've just scheduled it, and directly here we can see it is still linked to my Contoso product launch campaign. So I'm just going to close this, and now we're good to go. Now I've reviewed my campaign. I'm sure everything is on track. I can see all the content is, nearly all the content is scheduled here. I can also start to see some basic analytics on whatever's already been published within my intranet. But now what I'd like to do, because the product launch is tomorrow, what I'd like to do now is to schedule a newsletter to also communicate by email to all my users about this product launch. So directly from here, we have the ability to go in and click the content broadcast button, which takes me to my newsletter builder. So here, what I've done actually is I have started creating a newsletter for the Contoso product launch. So we won't spend the next 15 minutes just creating a newsletter. But here, so I have added my banner image, I've created my newsletter name, and I've started creating content. So I've put a header, I've put a section with some details about the campaign. Of course, this was created with the AI tool. And what we may want to do now is adding the content. So here I'm going to add content, and I'll add articles and documents. And directly here, so my product launch campaign is already selected, and I'll just go at the end of the page. And what I'll do is I will add my articles here. So I'll add this one and I'll add this one. So these are the only 2 articles we'll add for today. And then what I may want to add is maybe a button here just to ask users to watch the latest Ontoso product tour. I'll just put a random YouTube URL here and we'll just make it large, center it, and save this. So I can already start previewing my newsletter. So this is what the newsletter will look like at this stage. And if I'm happy with this, we've also pre-configured a footer in here. So here you can really go in and have a really comprehensive footer for your newsletter. And because we're happy with everything, we're just going to go ahead and schedule that newsletter. So I'll click next. And directly from here, I'm going to be able to send it and schedule it. So I'll decide to send the newsletter as myself, but I could decide to send it on behalf of somebody else within the organization. And here we'll start targeting the audience. So we could target specific groups, specific team groups or teams, or specific emails as well. So here we'll go ahead and we'll just send it to the all company list. All right, so I'm good to go with all these settings. I can now go ahead and send it. So here we will simply schedule it. And what we'll do is we'll schedule it for the product launch tomorrow at 11 a.m. So I'll go ahead and schedule this. And we're good to go. We have scheduled our newsletter and completed the communication campaign. All right, so that was for the newsletter. There we go. So it is now scheduled. And the last thing I wanted to show you is how we can start tracking engagement through more advanced analytics. As we know, SharePoint provides basic analytics for the SharePoint platform. We can still leverage these SharePoint analytics, of course, within the solution, but we've also added more analytics so that you have the ability to go in and really deep dive into your metrics. So here I'll have access to my settings only if I have permissions, of course, because this is where I'll have access to all my management tools for the portal. So this is where I'll have access to, for example, my web part templates, but also all my different templates. So for example, here, my navigation template, my theme templates, etc., etc. I can also create sites from templates, lists from templates, and so on. But what we're interested in here is the advanced analytics. So directly here, and this is a very new item. It is something that is actually in preview at the moment and going live officially at the end of June. But here, what we've worked on was we worked actually with customers on what they wanted to filter on as part of the analytics. And so now they can really measure the usage of the intranet as well as the content. So we'll have content metrics here. We'll have engagement metrics as well. And finally, we'll have really interesting ones. This is the latest one we added, actually. It was a big request from clients. Analytics around search and navigation. So really understanding who is searching what, how is it performing, and also how are users navigating throughout the intranet. And where these analytics become really powerful, it's with the ability to filter sites. So being able to really focus on specific sites of the intranet, but also focus on different types of content, for example, and of course, user properties as well. So you can really start analyzing analytics by content, by site, by user, by country, department, and so on and so forth. And of course, always with your time ranges as well. So you could run analytics just for a month, for 6 months, for an entire year, and so on and so forth. And that is pretty much what I wanted to cover as part of the demo today. Of course, there is a lot more within the product. We've probably seen about 5% of it today. So I'd love to actually schedule follow-up sessions with everyone here and provide a more detailed demo based on your requirements. But for now, I'll probably hand it over back to Steve and maybe go through a bit of a Q&A.
Thank you, Pierre. Yeah, I've got a couple of my own questions. If anybody else has got any question, please feel free to either pop it in the chat or come off the microphone. But my first question was around your content authoring. So when you've got your content authoring screen, and I noticed that it does things like translation and so on as well. So you've got quite advanced capabilities. And one of the questions that often comes up is how much does the AI cost? Because obviously there's a consumption cost of that. Is there any way to control how much content or how much AI cost a user consumes when they're creating their content in SharePoint, in Powell?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The good news is that the content creation AI is actually our AI. So there is no cost there's no consumption cost for the customers. The consumption costs are actually incurred on our side. We do have other AI tools within the intranet, especially around knowledge management. We have a new tool that's here to help organizations build knowledge bots, where they'll be able to build bots within the intranet that will go and find information in specific document libraries. Obviously, customers won't want our AI to go and scan their content. So here it will be leveraging their own AI. And of course, yes, it does incur consumption, most likely on their Azure OpenAI, but it could be other models as well. So we have ways to calculate it, of course, but more importantly, customers have ways to cap the bots to make sure that the usage doesn't completely go out of control.
Yeah, great. That's because that's obviously a concern for many organizations around consumption-based model, is not having control over how much people use it. So it's great to hear that you've got that feature. The other question I had was more about the email campaign. So now when you send out your campaign, and you've got in that campaign you've got the news posts that you put in there. How does that reflect back in analytics? Does it show? Do you get information on who's read the email? So the email kind of side of it, as well as the clicks through to the posts.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we actually, I didn't show it in the demo, but in the newsletter tool, once the newsletter is sent, we have the ability to track to how many people it was actually sent and delivered, and how many people have opened the newsletter. So we can track, how many people read the newsletter, of course.
Yeah, right. Has anyone else got any questions? Oh, Alex has got one. So Alex is asking, since Powell is managing the AI for these features, what's the risk of data leakage? If someone leverages AI when setting up news posts, will this data be used to train AI models?
No, so everything stays obviously within the Azure tenant. So everything is still governed by all the Microsoft guidelines on our side, at least, because we leverage the Azure OpenAI model being 100% aligned with Microsoft. But whenever you're going to leverage your own content internally, your own documents, this is when you leverage your own AI service internally. So depending on what service you're leveraging, you will have different policies in place. But every time you will really ask the AI to create something based on your internal documentation, or retrieve information from that internal documentation, it will leverage your own AI service and not ours. Because we understand you don't want our AI to go through your documents, of course.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Okay, if there's no further questions, obviously this recording will be available online, so we'll post this onto our YouTube channel after the webinar, and we'll send the notification out to everybody who's registered. I see quite a few people have registered but didn't make it along today. So Pierre, thank you very much for your time and presenting to us today. And we look forward to working with you on going forward on more cool intranet projects. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Same
everyone.
here. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.